Vestas Wind Systems is the world's largest wind turbine maker. The company reported a bigger than expected loss this quarter. Europe's debt crisis slowing renewable energy investments. Joining us now for a first on Bloomberg interview is the CEO of Vestas, and this is Ditlev Engel. Ditlev, thanks so much for coming back in to see us here on the Inside Track. I noticed that the stock is down today in the European session, the most since October. You had a drop of more than 9%. This is even though you're keeping your outlook steady for the rest of the year. What is the market getting wrong?
Well, first, I never comment on the stock price, but I think it's important if you look at our numbers, as you rightly say, we maintain our full year expectations. Actually, we're also telling the market today that we expect a break even for the first half of 2011 versus a loss last year of more than 200 million euros. But it is rough and tough out there. But basically what we're seeing is I would say, a Vestas in recovery.
You've spoken in the past about the need to have support from governments around the world. You need subsidies, for lack of a better term, to build out some of these projects. Are you worried about the slowing growth in Europe? Are you worried about slowing growth even in the U.S. as a block to potential projects? Is that what investors are reacting on?
Well, I think that the debt crisis that we have in many countries in Europe is, of course, affecting the market here in 2011. But I think also, so short term, you can say we have more challenges because of these situations. But if you look at the more long term, I think of the long term fundamentals, we are all seeing that energy is becoming very expensive. I think everybody feels that's also here in the United States. And I think, to quote the International Energy Agency, the days of cheap energy are over. So I think it's very important that you've got to look upon this on a long-term perspective.
We know late last year you made an announcement. You said you expected to have hired 3,000 people for your factories in Colorado. How many people are working there now?
Well, we have total in the United States, we have 3,100 people working actually in more than 20 states. And we have approximately a little less than 2,000 in Colorado. So we are creating a lot of jobs in the United States. And I also have to say that then you have to add all the sub-suppliers that we are now sourcing from here in the U.S. And I think the interesting thing about this type of energy is that it's really a domestic fuel. And you have an abundance of wind resources here in the U.S. So it's just a question of making a long-term plan and then tap it, basically.
Ditlev, we know that in the U.S. your biggest competitor is GE. How much opposition do you face, even from Congress or local governments who want to buy American and who are pushing this agenda? Are you at a disadvantage in that regard?
Well, how much more American can it be than having 4 manufacturing plants in Colorado and more than 3,000 Americans working over here? I don't think it's an issue about this. I think it's about the cost of energy. And we know it is cheaper to produce the turbine in the United States and deploy them in the United States than it is to bring them from overseas. And I think this is one of the great differences between this type of energy than maybe compared to others that you are importing. So I think it's both having job in the United States, but it's also actually making sure that everything gets done here.
Ditlev, you mentioned the cost of energy twice. I mean, it is hard to ignore oil prices. We've seen them clearly hovering around this $100 per barrel mark. Are you seeing more of an indication of interest for future orders because of this? Are you seeing more of an indication, again, for future orders because of what happened in Japan, Fukushima, and this idea of the risks that are involved with nuclear energy?
Well, I think the paradox that we're looking at here is actually on the short term, we talk about here 2011, of course, there's still a lot of uncertainty in the world. If you look at the more long term, beyond 2011 and the years to come, I think the fundamentals for our type of energy is being further strengthened. And you just asked me about GE, and I think I heard something similar being said by the CEO of GE just recently on their Q1 earnings. So yes, some uncertainty on the short term, but I think on the long term, I think wind energy is very well positioned.
So we're talking about your industry from a larger perspective, but as far as how the energy actually works, I mean, it's not the easiest thing to control. I mean, if you look at hydropower, right, you can kind of dam it up, literally, and make for a consistent energy supply. With wind power, it's a little bit harder to do that. Like, the wind doesn't always blow. I mean, how do you capture this energy? How do you transfer it so that, well, residential and industry can really count on a consistent stream?
Well, I think it's about making sure that everything has its advantages and disadvantages. And of course, when the wind doesn't blow, you need a backup fuel, as it is today. But we also have to remember there's a lot of technology development going on, like storage possibilities. That won't happen tomorrow.
How big would a battery have to be?
Well, that of course will be big. But I think also as you get more efficiency out of the turbines, you will need less and less backup. But if you look again here in the United States, you have, for instance, a lot of natural gas. And that is a very good backup fuel to wind. So if you combine, for instance, wind and natural gas, I think you have a very good solution. But I think we also have to remember that you've got to make sure that it's in abundance and it's for free. And wind is for free and it is in abundance. abundance.
Do you prefer natural gas backup or do you prefer battery backup?
Well, I think it's, as I said, it's not an either or. It's a both. And I think that's, of course, also very much up to our customers. My point is just really that when we're looking at the solutions for long-term development within energy, we should not forget technology. And I can just tell you we're working hard on technology and we keep seeing more efficient turbines, which means that we are constantly driving down the cost of energy.
Ditlev, how do you face this not in my backyard? I know you've had to speak on this at length, but I mean, we had a very famous case sort of near Martha's Vineyard, near Nantucket. People pay millions of dollars for seaside homes, and they just don't want to see that wind turbine. I mean, how do you approach this?
Well, I think first and foremost in the U.S. you have a lot of land. And you have a lot of wind resources. So I think there's a lot of areas which is not in anybody's backyard. But also if you look at it, because what you're referring to is offshore. Actually, if you look at how many wind turbines do you need to power the entire U.S. households on electricity, you need, with our latest machine, 44,000 machines. And that sounds like a lot. But you know what? If you put them out in the ocean and you make an area 100 by 6 by 100 by 6 miles, you have the entire area. And if I look at the U.S. coastline, I think it will be possible to find an area where nobody will feel too bad about it.
There's enough space.
There's enough space.
Ditlev, thank you very much. Ditlev Engel joining us. He is the CEO of Vestas Wind Systems.